What if I told you there's a sound so quiet, it can break your mind? This isn't a horror movie, it's real. There's a room that holds a bizarre world record, the quietest place on Earth. It's so silent that you can hear your organs working, your blood moving, your bones shifting. People who enter it alone begin to panic, hallucinate, even feel like they're being watched. No one has lasted inside for more than an hour, but why? Why does silence, something we often crave, become unbearable when it's absolute? Today we're diving deep into the paradox of silence and what it reveals about the human brain, perception, and the invisible noise we carry everywhere. Before we get started, drop a like if you love deep dives like this and subscribe to join us on more journeys through the strange side of science and reality. All right, let's begin. Inside Orfield Labs in Minnesota, there's a room engineered to erase the world around you. It's known as an anechoic chamber, designed not to be quiet, but to kill sound itself. The walls, floor, and ceiling are coated with massive yellow acoustic wedges that swallow nearly 100% of all sound waves. There are no echoes, no reverberations, not even the faintest environmental hum. Your footsteps vanish before your brain can register them. Your voice feels like it's being pulled into a void. Even your own breathing sounds unnatural, compressed, suffocating. Every breath feels heavier, every second longer, but the real strangeness begins when you stop moving. The silence isn't calm, it's hostile. You begin to hear things you were never meant to hear. The slow rhythm of your heartbeat, the faint hiss of your blood moving through your veins, the grinding of your joints, the squelch of your eyes shifting in their sockets. People who enter start to feel off balance, nauseated and anxious, often within seconds. In less than 10 minutes, most visitors ask to leave. Some last only a few, because when your world goes quiet, your mind goes loud. And in that vacuum, it turns against you. That's when the real horror begins, not around you, but from inside. Here's something strange. Your brain is always expecting noise. Even in your sleep, it's constantly filtering the world for threats, voices, or changes in environment. But in a space with absolute silence, that system breaks down. With no external input, your brain starts to amplify internal sounds. Heartbeat, stomach gurgles, even the fluid in your ears. For some, it gets even weirder. Phantom noises, voices, whispers. These aren't supernatural. They're your brain inventing sound to keep itself grounded. In other words, silence isn't calm, it's an unnatural void your brain tries to fill, and it'll do anything to escape it, even if that means making up a reality that doesn't exist. In the anechoic chamber, people report hearing everything, but not from the outside world. They hear the thumping of their heartbeat echoing through their skull, the pop of their joints, the blood surging behind their eyes. Imagine that being trapped in a room where your body becomes louder than your thoughts, and as the silence drags on, balance becomes harder. Literally, your brain uses subtle echoes to understand space. Without them, people begin to stumble, lose orientation, and feel like they're floating in nothing. It's not just uncomfortable, it's psychologically destabilizing. Biologically speaking, pure silence doesn't exist in nature. Even in the deepest caves, in the thickest forests, or at the bottom of the ocean, there's always some kind of ambient noise, the rustle of wind through leaves, the distant drip of water, the low hum of the earth itself. Our brains evolved surrounded by that noise, so when you're placed in an environment that removes all external sound, your mind reacts violently. It goes into survival mode. With no feedback from the world, the brain starts scanning for danger. It assumes you're either buried alive or dying. You become hypersensitive, muscles tighten, heart rate increases, stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline flood your system. In evolutionary terms, silence was a signal, a warning. It meant that the birds stopped chirping, the herd froze, something was watching, something was hunting, and so the body prepares. Fight or flight kicks in, even though there's nowhere to run. No predator, no movement, just silence. And the deeper your brain dives into that sensory void, the more unhinged it becomes. People start to hallucinate, auditory illusions, Phantom voices, even visual distortions. The silence is so unnatural your mind starts to fill the gap with whatever it can. Even if it's fear, even if it's madness. That's why absolute silence doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like a warning you were never meant to hear. A primal message from deep in your nervous system. Something is wrong. There's a reason some experiments with sensory deprivation have been described as torture. And surprisingly, it's not the darkness that breaks people, it's the silence. Because when you strip away all external sound, you're not just cutting off noise, you're disconnecting the brain from reality. Studies in psychology and neuroscience have shown that prolonged exposure to total silence can have severe cognitive effects. We're talking auditory hallucinations, intense anxiety, irrational paranoia, and in extreme cases, full-blown psychotic breaks. People begin to hear whispers, murmurs, static, even voices, but none of it is real. It's the brain creating noise to avoid sensory starvation. Your mind becomes an echo chamber for your deepest fears. A faint pulse in your ear starts to feel like footsteps. A slight ringing becomes unbearable. You convince yourself you're being watched, that something is behind you. And even when you leave the chamber, the psychological residue stays with you. Some people report phantom noises days later, high-pitched tones, distorted voices, clicking sounds that won't go away. That's the true paradox of silence. It's not calming, it's confrontational. The quieter the external world becomes, the louder your inner world screams. And in that silence, you don't just hear sound, you hear fear, you hear memory, you hear everything your brain was trying to protect you from. In extreme cases, yes. Some military experiments in the mid-20th century used prolonged silence as a way to mentally break prisoners. More recently, sensory deprivation chambers have been linked to anxiety attacks, depersonalization, and dissociation. But it's not just about torture. It's about understanding how fragile perception really is. Remove just one sense, sound, and the rest begin to crumble. So maybe it's not silence that drives people insane. Maybe it's that silence reveals how close to the edge we already are. So is absolute silence dangerous? It turns out yes, but not in the way we expect. It doesn't hurt you physically, it unravels you mentally because it strips away all the noise that distracts us from ourselves, and what's left can be terrifying. If you've ever experienced extreme quiet, like in a forest, a cave, or even late at night in your room, drop a comment below. I want to know what you felt. Calm, uneasy, something, stranger. And if you made it this far, hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos that dive deep into the strange, hidden corners of science, psychology, and reality itself, because sometimes the quietest places are where the loudest truths hide.